TC, and it's by me, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Happy New Year, everybody. And you got the JR and JRW show here tonight, so that's kind of fun. I don't know how that got planned, but I think that's great.
Yeah.
I first want to just say that this is really great, and I'm tickled to be able to be part of this. And if you'd like extra explanation, please feel free to ask away. I just offer my opinions, and I just love photography, so it's my life. So please fire away. I'll watch the chats and see if they come up, and we'll go from there. Does everybody hear me and we're all okay? Tim, you got me? Okay, good, thanks. So Tim's first photograph here, what I immediately was struck about this was his use of selective color. So he's obviously clipped out and used the monochrome and then the color from the painting that was downtown this summer on the street. Catching some action, and when you're catching action and you're getting people are what makes photographs, you know? So you've got this guy here on a very unique bicycle, a tall bike, and he's rolling into it. You got the blue and the blue going on and the blue up above. Then the ability to make him pop out a little bit by going the selective is actually pretty effective. Normally, I'm not too fond of this, but it actually works this time.
Yeah, thank you.
And so, yeah, so it was fun. And what this is, you know, with the BLM this year, this is a snapshot. It's a window of time of 2020. And so I could appreciate it, and it's going to be a record. And as time goes on, this will be a known moment in time. And so again, capturing people, you've got the far people on the sidewalk, which give you scale and balance to the guy that's here on the bike. He's rolling through. It's semi-anonymous because he's almost past you, but he's still rolling into the frame, and to capture the motion and things. My only little thought was that there was a little bit of motion blur in the background of those signs back there, which tend to catch my eye just a little bit. But for the most part, I liked this image, and so it was fun. And again, when you're getting people, that's 3/4 of the battle.
So just in the way of a little bit of an explanation, this guy was rolling along pretty rapidly, and he literally came up behind me, and I got him as he was going past, and I'm lucky I got this much of him.
That's great. No, I think that's wonderful. And it kind of made me look for a minute, because I'm thinking, I wonder if I can build one of those bikes.
Yeah.
I'm just goofy enough to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Up next is Allie in Christmas, Jerry Stutzman.
You know, I love the color of the festive season here. And what really kind of works for me is, again, when you're talking about photography, if you take the roots of it, it's photo is light, graph is to write. You're writing with light. And so when you've got lights in a dark sky and a dark environment, you're truly capturing light at its best. And with the great color, the headlights coming at you that are shielded by that car, and so you get those nice strong shadows and that focal point over there. Your eye can really run around this screen compositionally quite a bit, which is kind of fun. My only thought when I saw this was this needed a little bit of dehazing in post-processing just to make it just a little bit clearer, and things would have popped just a little bit more. It's just a little on the soft side there. Excuse me.
John Russell, was this on your list?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. This is a good exposure because you've got so many different light sources.
Yeah.
As John Robert pointed out, I like the fact that he used that car to block out the headlights coming at you, because it would have destroyed the rest of the frame probably. Modern photography is so much easier because you can select light sources that actually work. I know John and I, back in the years past, as most of you have done this for a while, you take a look at something and go, okay, I've got film in here. What do I balance this light with? You were limited to some extent. What would you say, John? 2 stops maybe in color accuracy before it started going away?
Yeah, yeah. This would have been a prayer.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
So it was interesting. Many of us that have cameras know this alley, and every year it gets a little better. So I thought it was a very, very well done. I probably would have cropped a little bit from the bottom to bring out a little more detail up above. It possibly darkened it a little bit, but it's a good exposure and it's a nice picture. It's one of those you look at, you stop and spend your time and go, wow, look at all the detail.
And
So
it looks better
nicely
in
done.
July too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of my reason for taking it, or just the brilliance and the color and everything else. I have to confess, this is actually a handheld picture. I had
Now-
to fiddle with my camera a little bit to get the speed up and the light in there correct, but I was really kind of surprised how well it came out. So appreciate all
I'd
the
like
good
to-
comments.
And I'm sure John would agree with me too. We'd like to do a class sometime on handheld photography, on what you might call available darkness. Because when we were on our Christmas light tour downtown, I didn't have a tripod with me, but I'd pumped up my ISO a little bit. And walking by a store, I think some of you saw the picture, a woman was in there hugging a golden retriever.
Yeah.
I turned around and grabbed a shot of it. I got 3 frames. And it got 150 hits on Facebook because it's such a neat picture. But I couldn't have done it with a tripod.
Right.
This is the same way. You don't necessarily need a tripod if you manipulate and use your camera to the ability that it's capable of.
Yeah.
I like the picture.
Okay,
So Tim,
now
can I-
back to you, John.
Tim, can I ask you a question? I kind of thought these were going to go in order, just either by me or by John. So,
They're gonna alternate.
oh, they're going to alternate. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
I didn't.
I remember seeing this from before. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
I looked at John's pictures. So.
Oh, my fault, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay, now we will go back to you, John Robert. And this is Along the Dunes by Mark Cram.
Yeah, I was immediately struck by the leading lines here in this picture, and the balancing of the shadow and the highlights in the sky, and pushing that the horizon about around the 2/3 line. So that's all pretty good. The only thing I felt lacking was the lack of humanity or something to grab onto. There's just not a person or a car or a horse or an animal or something to actually give us a focus and a subject on the frame here. It's a nice, creative image of looking at this snowdrift and things, but when you do pictures like this, they need something to pull your eye to, so you're not just wandering all over the frame going like, where is it, where is it, where is it? So if it doesn't hit you across the face, then it isn't there. But it's nice that the sky is right. The shadows and the highlights are right. Nothing's blown out, nothing's too far. But it just needs a subject. It's just this white line on the side of the road isn't enough to make it a saleable picture or something that somebody will go, oh wow, I want that. That's kind of the criteria I look at.
Okay, and then back to John Russell. We have Brooklyn Street Party, Ann Kennedy.
This is an interesting photograph. I would suspect, I suppose it's sunlight. When I first looked at it, I thought, is that sunlight or is that lighted? So the shadows and the darkness and lightness really grabbed me. Her guitar is glowing.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting. I like the fact that it's in black and white. I'm not sure this would have worked in color. It's an interesting photograph. There's a lot to look at. There are a lot of questions too. I was drawn also to the no parking sign. So I thought this is some kind of a street fair or something going on, probably.
Yeah.
There's a parking lot there. But the lighting is quite fascinating. Whose photo is it?
Ann Kennedy?
Is she on?
Yes, she's here.
Yes,
What was the
It's
light
a-
source?
it's a street in Brooklyn. The whole street was shut down and they had a big party. And there was games for the kids, and then they had music, and this is the music. It's in the historical district of Brooklyn.
The light on her looks like it's reflected from down below, and it may be from the pavement. What do you think, John?
I don't know. It was almost ghostly when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of shadows and the sun was coming through the trees. There's trees in Brooklyn.
Yeah. It looks like a shagbark there on the right. It's an interesting picture. The shadows add some mystery to it. I like the black and white. I think it was well done.
I wonder if it's not reflecting up off of the guitar, given that underlight.
Yeah, there's definitely a reflection there, I think, because of her guitar and stuff and her legs. I mean, she should be in shadow there.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, then up next is Brooklyn Street Party number 2 by Ann Kennedy. And this goes back to you, John.
When I first saw this, I saw the converging lines, but what I was looking for was a sign of actual living humanity. I was just hoping that there was someone crossing that street in the zebra stripes there. There's nice converging lines the way you've got this nice V, the double V that's going into the middle there. My only other thought was that it was a little over processed in the sky, that it was a little too foreboding and too dark for a sunny day. It almost looks like there's a really nasty thunderstorm coming at us here. But so I thought that was a little bit pushed, but it certainly made a contrast for the street lights that are up there. But overall, it needs a person in this picture to help make it do something. It's all in focus. It's all there, but my eye just wanders and going like, well, what's the story? And I just did not know what the story was. So unlike the other street party picture, this one which had people, this one doesn't. And I'm just trying to figure out what you're trying to tell me here.
Okay, up next is Celebrating Australia Day by Rick Sack.
When I saw this, I thought, well, somebody's been working with some different programs to get some nice light out here. It might be an HDR.
No, but it was done some Photoshop work on it. This was actually taken as a camera phone picture, so I did quite a bit of processing in Photoshop.
Oh, okay, yeah. Where is it?
Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, okay. Looks like they're building something back there.
Probably Darlington Harbor.
It's
Yeah.
It's a nice exposure, and I was quite fascinated by. There's a lot of things going on. If anything bothered me is the fact that there wasn't any focal point per se, because you've got all the people. I was noticing construction in the background. It looked like the kind of place to be fun to go to with a camera.
It was. I wish we had just gotten back in Sydney and we're going out to eat and realized it was celebration of Australia Day, which is a pretty special holiday in Australia. And unfortunately, my camera was back in the room because we were just going out to eat. So all I had was my phone with me. And I probably took 40, 45 shots just, from beginning of here until at night when they were having fireworks, and just kept shooting with my phone.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's a fascinating photo. It does show the power of our newer phones now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, when I looked at this image, when it was sent to me here, I went like, wow, everything's in focus. I thought, is this from a phone or not? I was really kind of questioning that. Rick, I just wanted to tell you that I thought this was a stunning image in terms of just the capture of the people. Fortunately, I was just in Australia in last February myself, in March, and everything's under construction there. It's like the New York skyline is all being built at once. It's unbelievable. It's not what you think Australia is. And so you really captured a lot. And I like all the people. It's a real melting pot there in Australia, and you really captured that here. There's a lot of different kinds of people. I liked the color, and it was a very arresting image. I liked it a lot.
You know, the state bird of Australia, the national bird, is a construction crane. Little humor there. Ah,
Okay. Next is The Christmas Barn by Jerry Stutzman.
I love these images, and especially when you get old Traverse City here, and you get these really old barns that people are decorating. This is a slice in time, much like the other photo that was there. I just love the light. I love the serendipity of that blue bouncing off from that Jeep in the background there. The writing, everything, and then you can't go wrong with reflections in the wet pavement in the foreground there, which doubles your light. We always look for reflections at night. That's one of my rules, because you get twice the amount of light. if you can do it, or 3 times or 4 times, depending on what's going on. The framing was kind of fun. Overall, I liked this picture. I had a lot of fun with it. I love how bent the building is compared to how straight the house is.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Then next is Christmas on Front Street by Rick, Alan Hewer.
Yeah, this is a nice picture. This is another one of those years where there's no snow. It was a dry night that particular night, so there wasn't a lot of reflection either, like John just pointed out. But this is a nice exposure. Again, like John has said, I'd like to see some people in it. But the problem in Traverse City at night is there aren't any people. All the bars and restaurants are closed. You probably find somebody delivering food to a car, which is probably what that car is doing with the taillights on, waiting for some food to be delivered. But it's a nice exposure to get all the balance of the lights with probably 6 different sources. I would have cropped it a little tighter from the bottom and at least the left side to put more emphasis on the Christmas lights. But it was a good job on the exposure, and I was pleased to see that because it's not an easy thing to do.
Okay. Then next up, we have Dancing in the Streets by Jurwitz, and I apologize, I don't have your first name in front of me.
It's Jim, and you did
Jim.
very well on my last name.
Good, thank you.
Jim, I really loved this image. The minute it popped up on my screen, it was like kapow, because it's everything we've just been talking about. You've got people, you've got faces, you've got action, you've filled the frame beautifully. There's motion, there's excitement, there's passion. I just was enthralled with this image. I mean, you got the expression, the buildings are nice and straight, everything's plumb. I could not find a thing wrong with this picture if I tried. I loved it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, the crop's very nicely done.
yeah, it is.
One thing that both John and I do when we shoot pictures, we shoot full frame. You'll see
I know.
quite a bit of the time. There's not a lot that we want to change.
No, I never crop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a tool that's not used enough by a lot of people. I'll always do a copy of something to try different crops on it. And how many of you have taken a horizontal picture and then you crop it vertically was an object and then find out that I should have shot it that way.
Never happens.
Yeah, it's a good lesson to learn. This is a nice tight shot. I agree with everything John said.
Okay, then the next one is Front Street Lights by John Robert Williams.
When I saw this on Facebook, I was fascinated by it. I bet I spent 10 minutes just looking at it. The way everything is balanced. It didn't bother me at all. It wasn't sharply focused. And I thought it was very, very nicely done. Very creative, John. Very creative.
If you look at the trees on the right, that's in focus.
Yes, the limbs were, yeah. Yeah.
That's the idea. That's the only way to get that bokeh out of this old lens.
Yeah, shooting wide open, way wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
This is an old 1.5 lens built in 1954.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
Wow.
I bet it's heavy too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the breakfast of champions here.
Oh yeah. It's a nice picture. The other thing I did too is I looked at it and thought, oh, I know where that was shot. When you see the lights on it, you can actually tell that, which is kind of fun. That means you live someplace long enough.
All right, well, moving on to more downtown. This is Downtown by Dale DeVries.
Boy, I really like the perspective on this, and the chutzpah of even getting upstairs. I don't know how you did it, Dale, but my hat's off to you.
You just asked them.
You just ask them, that's great. Every time I've been down there, it's been closed. But what works here is a lot of things. The light bouncing off the snow illuminates the buildings more. You get more of a kick. You've got the color of the tree. You've got that action of the curve down below. You've got the lines, the traffic that's etched through the snow, which is really nice. There's a lot of mix of highlights and darks here, and thank goodness there's some people there for scale and for some interest, because if you put your thumb over those people, that picture dies compared to putting those people there. So it's always critical to put people in your pictures. I'll never finish saying that enough. I mean, I'll wait and wait and wait to get a person in a frame if I'm trying to do something. I've got some, but you've got everything lined up. I don't mind the keystoning effect of looking down on this one. The only thing that caught my eye was whatever was going on at the bottom with looked like some Photoshop work at the very bottom of the frame there in the road that was a little busy, and I didn't quite understand it, what you were trying to take out there. But that was the only, I would have blurred it more or something if you're going to do that. But other than that, I really thought that was great. I really, really appreciated this picture. And again, the people are there, the framing is there, the lights are there. You're writing with light in this picture, and it all works.
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
Dale, I think one thing you could get out of this one, this is back when the Franklin was open on the corner there.
Right.
And all you had to do, there's only one answer to any question, yes or no. And all Dale had to do was walk in there and say, can I go upstairs and take a picture from the balcony? He said, sure. And when that car went around the corner, you captured that nicely too. Was that on a tripod or on the railing, or how'd you do that?
Yeah, it was on tripod.
Tripod, yeah. Yeah. Also, this year when we did the Christmas lights, there was no snow on the street, and the tree was dark.
Yeah, I think this is last year's, John.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. I agree with John. It's nice to have the people in there too.
Yeah, it works. Okay, the last one was Front Street Lights, December 29th, and this one is January 1st. John Robert Williams.
Oh, I get to talk about my own picture. Okay, so what I did is I went back down with the same lens again, because you can never learn enough. And so trying to figure out exactly what, because these are manual focus lenses, obviously, it's, and everything. And you can see I put this blurry person over there on the left just to put that humanity in there. But there is the focus on that Tesla in the foreground on those highlights. But I'm looking at the highlights and I'm just trying to make light go everywhere in that picture. And who says it all has to be in focus if you're trying to get bokeh? Because you can make those tiny little lights get way bigger when you throw the focus in the foreground versus the background. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And just, it doesn't look like everybody else's picture. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Very nice.
Like it or not, I don't care, but you got to have one thing in focus or the picture's a bust. But that's what I did.
Yeah.
JR, you want to weigh in?
Again, I like it. I noticed immediately the car in the foreground in focus, and what I kept thinking was, I wonder what it's like if you put it on infinity and how much of the foreground would be out of focus.
Well, what you get is a bunch of pin lights, which doesn't look like everything else, and I'm trying to get those big glows.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. That's part of the creativity that you do when you do things like that. You've actually put some thought into it, and I think it's fascinating.
I like it.
I don't know how many times I've done something like that when I wasn't trying to, and you look at it later on and go, wow, that's kind of cool. I like it.
Okay. Okay. So back to you, John Robert. This is Giant Size Available. Dennis Holly.
Here we go. I went wow when I saw this picture. Again, here's what works. The scale of the people at the bottom of the frame really contrast away from everything. The sharpness, the color, the framing was all great. My only complaint was, it's too bad this thing wasn't straightened in post-processing. You've got the leaning poles and you got the leaning parts of the building here with that facade. If that had just been straightened up in post, this would have, I was over the moon with it. But this is an amazing picture. This obviously you're not in Kansas anymore when you're making this picture. Great street scene, great people, great urban. It's everything that the assignment asked for.
Okay.
Just to break in, John Robert Williams, we had somebody in the chat want to know, when you did that light scene, what aperture were you using on that lens?
That's a good question. This is an f1.5 lens. This is an old Leica Suma Rex lens from 1954. This was designed in 36, so it's an old lens. It's a f1.5 lens, but it doesn't look good at 1.5, so that was between 2 and 2.8. I test it to find out where it works good. So at 1.5 you get way bigger bokeh balls, but it's so bad that you can't see the picture. It's really soft.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, back to John Russell. This is Ken and B's Complete Food Market. Tim Wade.
It pops up. I would like to have had somebody looking out the window of this because it's such a fascinating building. When I first looked at it, I thought, let's see. They accept credit cards. I wonder if they take cash. No bottles before 11. There's so much going on here. It's fascinating. If it had a person in it, would have been perfect. I'd like to know where it is.
It's in Muskegon Heights, actually.
Old building.
Wow.
Yeah, the quick backstory is Muskegon Heights is like a bombed out shell of its former self from back in the 50s, say. There is nothing left. This is the only storefront left from probably the 50s that I could find.
Yeah.
The rest of it's all changed or gone, and most of it's just literally gone. It's really a depressed area.
It's the kind of building that if I was going to go in there, I'd want to look at all the stuff in the window to make sure I was allowed to go in.
Yeah, really.
You know, no returns in plastic bags. We stay open until 11. They sell different things here, but am I allowed to? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, back in the 50s, I used to be able to ride my bicycle from 5-10 miles away, whatever it was, and go downtown. And this was just a mom and pop grocery store back then. I don't know what it is anymore.
Yeah, I was curious about all the black scuff marks on it too.
Yeah,
on the building. I would love to have had somebody looking out the window.
yeah, that would have been good, but
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I
Anyway,
probably drove right past this today. I went down Sherman Street in Muskegon Heights.
oh yeah,
I think the building's still there. I mean,
oh it is. This is maybe 14 months or so ago.
yeah.
Yeah,
See
the
the
other thing
box
missing
on the
here is
window.
a sign that says masked. You must be masked.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an interesting place.
that's the only thing not there. Okay.
No pin cushion or barrel distortion on your lens either. It's really straight.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah, I was just sitting in my car.
Wow.
The drive-by shooting, huh?
Yes. Okay. Next up is Matinee by Rochelle Stark. Back to you, John Robert.
Thank you. I'm always up for monochrome images. I love making monochrome images. What struck me here, obviously, is just not only the typeface and the neon, but the triangles going on in here, the zigzags, the composition that was working. I like that. The assignment was urban or streetscape, and I go, okay, well, it's kind of urban, but it just seemed more of a detail shot than more of a streetscape shot for the assignment. But other than that, it's all tack sharp. It's nice. I like the composition a lot, and it's a good use of a monochrome image.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Next is Miller's Corners by David Fox. John Russell.
Yeah, I love this one. I agree with John on what he said before was, it's got a lot going on, but if it would have had a car, a person, an animal or something, then it would have been great. I love the texture around the edges. It looks like some of the slides that I've copied from 1950. It's quite fascinating. I love the fact that it's black and white. That works very well. I also noticed when I was looking at it, there's a lack of signs there, which to me kind of made it ageless. There's obviously a no passing line in the middle of that road, but there's no sign there anywhere saying, don't consider doing this. I love the fact that it was square. That takes me back a long ways. Probably you too, John. The 2 1/4 lens cameras. I thought the frame was nice.
David, are you there?
Yeah,
Are you scanning these to get this digitized?
these are the Tintype app in the iPhone.
Ah,
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
I edited them, some of these, I finally figured out how to edit them in actually the mobile Lightroom or in
Okay.
Lightroom. But a lot of them, I'll shoot them with the regular app in the regular camera, then I'll edit them down, punch them up with things I need, and then I take them into the Tintype app for the final
I see. Thank you.
application.
Okay.
Sort of simulating the 4x5 and wet plate type.
Right, that's right. It's a good simulation.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Okay. Next is Mission Point Drive, Rags Avery.
What it struck me about this, a lot of things hit me right off the bat here, is that when you're trying to get a moving subject like this, even though it's going slowly, you got to time it right and get it coming into the frame and not past the center of the frame. And you got that. And the nice little thing, it's almost like doing a car shoot here. Just a little bit of tilt gives it a little bit of extra bounce and makes it look like it's coming uphill even a bit more. Timing's nice with the hoofs up off the floor, the ground together. Again, a street scene with people in it. It gives you scale, it gives you interest, it gives you something to look at. Can't go wrong with the hollyhocks and things behind, and then the green framing around it. And it's a good challenge to do on an overcast day, and you can just see by these soft shadows, it's really overcast, and yet you still pull it. So it captures Mackinac Island, and I just say, be still my heart. It all works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Morro Bay Fish Company by Alan Sullivan.
I like this picture a lot. I like the colors and the balance. I was kind of curious. I would like to have had a person, and again, like John, I keep harping about. I did like the birds because it's a seafood place. If anything, it might be cropped a little too tight. But I do see a person in the doorway there, and I noticed that after I looked at it for a minute or two, and I thought that does help some. I was fascinated by why this thing was apparently parked right in front of the porch there on this little office building. But nice color, and I wish I could have been there taking frames myself.
Okay. And now we have The Other Side of the Tracks by David Fox.
Well, this is what I call dynamic. When you see this pop like this, David, I really appreciated this. You've got the crisscrosses of the tones. Again, monochrome. This is how you work tonality into a monochrome image and make it dynamic. You've got contrast. You've got the lines. You've got everything going there. My only concern with this, and it's just when you've got a wide angle shot, you got to be really careful about pointing up, down, level. And obviously you had to point it down in order to get those tracks to come into the frame like that. But in post, what I like to do is straighten up those utility poles so that everything is running rectilinear. Then you'd have even a little better dynamic to it. Other than that, I just thought this was a really cool picture. I liked it. I liked the sky. I liked the tonality in the ground. The fact that it's almost backlit and is working. The lines. It's a great monochrome image. It's the way it works. I just would have straightened those utility poles up in the buildings.
Okay. Now is Pink Perspective by Dennis Holly. Great. John Russell.
Yeah, this was a fascinating photo to me. I love the people. I like the fact that car in the foreground is so vibrant. It's a fascinating shot. I would like to see I don't know what I would have changed in this.
In my opinion, this was as close to flawless an image as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is right here.
I gave it a lot of thought, and I thought, I don't know, if I was in Cuba, I thought it was fascinating that you cropped part of the car, because even if you showed the whole trunk and the whole back end of that car, it wouldn't help the picture any. This makes it much more fascinating. And I love the people, the woman walking away. I couldn't change a thing. I really liked it. The vibrant colors are wonderful.
The way you got that leading line going to infinity right down the center of the frame and that person directly underneath it. And then you've got the two other bodies left and right of that balancing it. You got the blue contrast against the pink. And then all the colors of the building. I was like, holy hell, this is a great picture.
Yeah, it is.
I fell out of my chair when I saw it.
And I thought if I couldn't be there to be part of this photographic expedition, you could at least bought me back a good cigar, you know?
And here's another point is that on a cloudy day, you can still get really good pictures. You
Yeah.
can see that it's a cloudy sky and you can see the highlight in that trunk. It's a cloudy day. You know, it fills in the shadows, and don't be afraid of cloudy days.
If this had harsh shadows, it wouldn't work.
No.
It wouldn't work at all. That's beautiful light. Very, very nicely done.
Yeah, the amount of detail in it is amazing.
A lot of detail. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Relief by Bill Mumford.
Yeah, this is taking street art and photographing it again. As we've been saying before, my only really concern was that it's too bad there wasn't somebody crossing that street over there in the background by that stop sign. Just to add some humanity to this and to some scale and everything else. It almost, other than that car back there, the place almost looks deserted, which is sad, because to add some humanity to some sculpture really helps, especially if it's an outdoor art thing like that. But exposure wise, it's fine. The sky is fine. The building's a little crooked compared to the pole, again, which you just got to pay attention to a little bit in post. If you're shooting wide angle lenses and you're pointing them up and down, you know, you got to straighten them out somehow or other. But you just, it's part of the deal if you're going to shoot wide. So just be aware of that. But highlight and shadow detail is all there. The exposure's right, composition's right. I just was wanting for a person.
Can I make a comment on this?
Please.
One of the reasons I submitted this is that the people I was with had all kinds of different reactions. Some were found this offensive. Others found it humorous. Other people said, you know, why would a municipality allow something like this in their middle of their street? Others called it, well, because it's fine art. So it's a real controversial image.
Where was it?
This is in I don't remember the name of the town. It's in Florida.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is Road to Nowhere by Mark Cram. John Russell?
I'm waiting to see the picture again. I still have a dog peeing on a light post.
Oh.
There we go.
Okay. There's a little delay then.
Yeah. Here's another shot, like John said, if it would have had a car or a person, it would have been a great shot. The lines are nicely done. The third composition's nice. It's a good exposure. I would like to have seen something in it. I thought somebody's been around Mark Lindsay because they got those nice clouds again in the sky. It's I've got a similar picture of this over in Leelanau County with that old car going through, and I just got lucky because I was looking at the lines thinking this is really nice. And this old, I think it was a Studebaker, probably 1930 or 31, came over the hill, and it was a great shot. Even better in black and white. I like the fact that no road signs in there again. If it wasn't for the dew line, the fog line along the side there, you wouldn't have any idea if this was a recent picture. Could have been shot in the 50s.
Okay. Next up is St. Anne Drive-By by Rags Avery.
Just like I was saying with the other one, that timing of moving vehicles and things. Here, what I thought is that the horses in the carriage are now going out of the frame instead of coming into the frame. So that the timing was a little late in terms of getting this picture. And when you're shooting wides and you're tilting things up and you get that fallback on the building, it's tough. I know you back up and put the tree in there to break up the sky. I understand that. But those broken branches that are up in there that are so much of the sky in the upper left was a bit of a distraction to me. So timing wise, I think it's critical to always watch when you've got these moving vehicles, get them coming into the frame and not leading out of the frame, because the building's looking one way and then the horses are, too far the other way. And then the darkness of all the trees on the right doesn't really balance out what's going on over here. So I understand what you're trying to do, Rags. I give you all kinds of credit for it, but when you get a lens this wide in order to try to get the top of that steeple, I get it. It's tough, I know, but I would just have gotten a little bit earlier. Or the other thing is even shoot a little bit wider and keep the camera level, and then you crop out of the bottom to get it back to this. Then you won't have such a fallback on that wide shot like that. And again, I don't know on this one and processing if when you ran it through in Photoshop, if you did click on your optics to see if the program recognized the fact that you had a certain lens and it's so wide, it may have taken some of that bowing out of there a little bit. But you want to be catching action coming into the frame, not going out of the frame. But the light's right. I mean, the exposure is nice. I thought it was a little heavy-handed if there was a little extra vignetting going on. It was a little heavy up on the top. I would have just cloned those 2 broken branches out of the picture, I think. It's too much. That was my only challenge with this thing. But other than that, hey, Mackinac Island, I'll look at pictures of that all day long.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have Soul Glow by Rochelle Stark.
Again, if people were in here, it would have been a great shot. I like the balance of it. I like the way you're drawing down the sidewalk. But it needs something in the way of human life or activity. I probably would have stepped into that place. It looks like an interesting bar. It was, if I was guessing on this and didn't know any better, I'd say maybe it was shot in the early morning, just before daybreak, because there's absolutely no activity at all except one car on the road down there. But it's a nice exposure. The color balance is wonderful. And I know it's probably in the evening. But other than that, it needs people.
Yeah.
It needs some activity.
I think it was it's right before the sun really goes down. So, I mean, we were on our way in.
Yeah.
And before it got real dark, I like the colors. I like that sort of.
It's a real nice exposure.
Cinematic thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Times Square by Jim Jurwitz.
Now, if you ask for a street scene or urban scene, you're not going to get more street or urban than this. And here's what, if you've ever been to Times Square, it's beyond massive. The scale is out of control. And so when you see these people way down here in the lower right, to see how big Times Square really is, and then the blur of the traffic and the rush of the city, it's like, wow, it really drives it home. You got some strong verticals going on here, which is going on. Those reflections of the car tops at the bottom of the frame really balance it out and finish off the bottom. Otherwise, if that was just black down there, it wouldn't have held. I would have dehazed this just a little bit more, which would have driven home the night and gotten a little more detail in all of the illuminated signs there. A little bit of dehazing can go a long way to help the same things. And also a little bit of dodging and burning, just to burn down some of those really bright things, because when you're photographing a lot of these signs, you got to remember they are light sources, like taking a picture of a light bulb or the sun. It's not light, it's not reflected light, like coming off from a building. So remember, when you're shooting light sources, you're going to have way more contrast than you want. So you either have to drop your contrast or burn those things down a little bit to balance and to get your saturation back and your detail back and things like that. So a little bit of burning here would have been great, but this to me really fulfilled the assignment all the way. I was like, yeah, this is it.
Okay. Next up is Under the Marquee by Dale DeVries.
I like this picture a lot. It made me feel warm. I was surprised you couldn't see the people in the window. I do see a face there on the right side, a little soft, but that wasn't something I had to find. I had to go looking for it. maybe cropped a little too tight. I would like to probably see in the bottom of the door a little more. It makes me think back to when things were a little more normal than they've been in the last 10 months, because we missed the lights there. We missed the activity. Again, if it had some people prominent in there, I think I would like this picture a lot more. A lot of light there. I agree with what John said too. You know, tone it down a little bit. See if we get a little more contrast, but it's it warmed me up.
Waited quite a while, John, to get the people out of the picture.
You know, I've thought of that in a couple of different frames. You know, all of us have done that thing. I'm going to wait till that person walks out of the frame. What I would do now, after all these years, is take 2 frames, one with the people, one without. And I've got a choice.
Film's cheap, right?
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
That $4 chip in our camera.
Really? Okay. Next up is Urban Decay, and I think it's Mary Pierce, although I'll apologize if I got your first name wrong.
I'm sure this is Mary's. What I like about this picture is a lot of different things. I was immediately struck with it. We all know where this is, over in the building 50 area of the Commons. But what she did was, compositionally, she plumbed everything up and got it square. If you compare this to the frame you just saw, where the lines are going every which way, here the respect was shown and it's all plumbed up. This is also a really tough shot to frame right, to get the window on the left square, to get the building and that blankness on the right square, to get those zigzags coming out in the building the way they are, the bars the way they are. This is not as easy as you'd think it would be. I've stood at this area and tried to do a shot there, and you have to work at it to get things lined up right. You really do. And this is a moment in time. And the other thing I liked was the fact that, okay, this is not just straight processing. This has been some toning going on. There's been some afterthought. Everything lines up. Just the little things, like if you look in the lower right-hand corner, the way that looks like there's something pointing back up into the frame diagonally. That's concrete and a shaft coming out of the ground. And then you get the diagonal on the lower left coming back in. Everything keeps pulling you back in, and it keeps coming back to a really tight composition. You couldn't crop this thing and make it work. It's really framed nicely, and the light works. There's enough detail. Everything's there. I was captivated with this picture. I loved it.
Great texture.
Okay. Now we have View from the Street by Alicia Erickson.
This is a fascinating color picture to me because of the different tones. I wanted to walk up and look in the window a little closer. I thought it was very well done. The lighting's very nice. Talk about thirds composition, huh? It's pretty balanced, but it's nicely done. It's fascinating, all the stuff there. I didn't have much else to say about it other than the fact that I liked the picture.
Okay.
This is on the way to Barcelona. And I look in these windows every time I drive by because they are like jam packed full of stuff.
Yeah, I have a garage like that. It's fascinating.
Okay. Next up is Virus Village by Bill Mumford.
Yeah, so if you look at the assignment, street scenes and things, and then if you think about what we just went through with a holiday which you couldn't really get out, this is the one time where you can break the rule. If you really want to show how a pandemic looked, with nobody out, this is what you do. And so this is where people, and I made this comment that when I wrote it down, is this is when it's good when there's no people in the picture, because you're trying to make a point. There's no cars, there's no people, there's no nothing. It's just lights on. And with a wide angle shot, this is a gutsy thing to do, What I like framing wise is that if you look at the upper right-hand corner, the building is framed in nicely and that white holds things together there. Looks like headlights in the foreground that are helping the bottom just a little bit, not just go into black infinity. The tonality's all there. The color of the lights, it's like the lights are on, but no one's to home and we're ready for a party, but there's not going to be a holiday. So this left me very sad looking at this picture, and it's going to be a great historical piece. It's a good record of our time.
Okay, next up is Cayucos, California, Mary Ellen Sullivan, if I pronounced that even remotely correctly.
This was a fascinating image to me. When I first looked at it, I wasn't sure if I liked the pier right exactly. It's square in the middle. But then I started looking at it, saw the people down below on the beach, saw the distance in the hills and the sky darkening a little bit. I love the fact that it was in black and white. I wanted to blow it up larger than I could. And I've got a couple of big monitors here, but I actually liked the picture more than I thought I would when I first looked at it. It has people in it. It gave scale to such a large beach. And I also chuckled to myself and thought, well, it's not Lake Michigan because there is a beach. But of course, with a pier like that, you don't see that in the upper Great Lake, any of the Great Lakes anyway. So I thought it was nicely done, especially in black and white. John, did that pier bother you at all?
No, I liked this picture, but I agree with you. I thought it was so small. There's so much detail crammed into this shot. I really wanted to have a little bit more going on than to be able to see it a bit better.
Yeah.
That was something of a surprise to me. But as a monochrome image, the tonality's all there, and the timing of that wave is critical. And if you're shooting waves, you got to get to the right spot so that you're getting you want to get that highlight in there of that froth, and it works. And so it dives to the image. I thought the timing of it was nice. It's obviously low tide, because you can see that the water is over there on the far left and people are scrambling on the far left. It's a nice record. I don't know why it's so small. I just couldn't figure that out.
I blew it up when I viewed it. For the same reason. Yeah.
And that was the first image of the open category, just to say so as well.
Oh, thanks. Okay.
And then next up is Grazing by Rick Sack.
Yeah, when I looked at this picture, I immediately thought, boy, if I was shooting it, I would have taken about 3 or 4 steps to the right since the 2 sheep are facing to the right, I try to have them looking into the frame instead of more out of the frame since they're past right center. That would have been my only thought is that, gosh, I would have just kind of stepped to, as I looked at it, I was like, I got to step to the right to get this picture. And I don't know whether you could or not, but that's what left me. See, the boat and the highlight, the wake that leaves in the far right balances it out, and that leading line works. So if you can move these sheep farther to the left in the frame by stepping to the right, then the boat's still there. You still get the contour, everything else, but you put them more to the left of the frame instead of the right of the frame. But
yeah, I wanted to do that, but I didn't really have enough room. In order to do that, I would have had to move to the right and a little closer to that big drop off than I wanted to get.
I understand, but that it's okay, Rick. It just caught me as that. And the other thing that I try to do when I have a texture of like this, like a sheep, and then you get this grass texture, is they almost blend in. So I squat down just a little bit lower so you can make more of the, see on the right sheep, you get that blue against the water against the back versus the other one, just to try to get both of those just a little bit. So I know it's hard, and it's so easy to second judge it later looking at a picture than when you're doing it. But the more self-talk you can have and keep questioning things as you're doing stuff, that's why none of us do it as a one-shot wonder. We keep working it. We look at give ourselves feedback, talk to ourselves, and try to get the best we can out of the situation. And that's how we learn. We're all learning.
Well, the other thing that's difficult about judging someone else's photograph is too, we weren't there.
Right.
You know, when Rick mentions if he would have gone 3 feet to the right, he would have been dropping off a cliff. We don't know that here. And I'm always aware of that fact whenever we pass judgment on somebody else's image. But all we have to work at is what we're looking at. So, that's a defensive stand probably, but
Yeah, the best way I could have gotten them would have been to point the camera more towards the right, but I didn't want to lose as much of that water and the peninsula sticking out there as I like that in the shot.
Yep.
Pointing the other way, I would have just got a little stream of water, which I didn't really care
No,
for.
I understand. I totally understand. I get it. I'm not complaining. I just.
I'm not being defensive either. I'm just explaining what the situation.
But when we're composing stuff, we just try not to, like, if you can get them a little more off in the corner, or look whichever way they're going, and have them leading into the frame instead of leading out of the frame is the only thing I'm trying to suggest here.
Okay. Red bikes in rain and fog, Mary Pierce.
I love this picture. I like the people. I like the fact that you had real sharp focus there on the right side. I was quite fascinated by this. In the old days, we would have taken some petroleum jelly and put it on a filter and gotten a similar effect of this. And I had a lot of thoughts going about what we've done in the past and how this might have been done in the future. It's fascinating to me. It was handled, and I like the color. Nothing like primary reds. Even the crop worked for me. Obviously, it was probably shot in China, I would say. I think it was nicely done.
That's right. It was in China.
How did you get the two bicycles and sharp and everything else soft?
I have no idea. I was on a bus that was moving and it was raining and I shot it out of the window. I have no way of knowing how those got.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. This was shot through a glass window and with a water drop coming down in front of it. And so that's what caused everything to be out of focus other than the right.
I think the door actually opened to let someone in on the bus. And I think I shot it right then. So that's why there was some clarity.
What's nice about it is you tried it and it worked. Especially shooting digital now, you don't have to worry about whether or not the frame, you got a button that says delete and you get rid of it. But I also thought this was probably shot through a window, but I wasn't quite sure what the situation was other than the fact that it was wet. But we have a word for that, serendipity.
I was just going to say serendipity. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is street, not TC.
Yeah, this is exotic. from our honky eyes here. I was really impressed that this was posted because I thought this fit into the street scene category and urban category as well as the open. I was like, wow, okay. Because this is capturing a really special moment in time. And again, if this jumps on everything we've been talking about all evening here, when you put people in the frame and you can associate with them and you can look at the culture, you can read so much into this picture. I like the fact that these reds jump through a little bit and the yellows, and then the rest of it's kind of muted. The action, the stop, the timing of the prayer here of the woman in the violet in the foreground, the smokiness of it, you can almost smell this picture. They're obviously at a shrine, and it's a great moment in time. I loved this picture. My only thought was it was almost a little bit too smoky, and I would have dehazed it just a tiny bit. It just seemed like it was a little bit too soft, but other than that, if it's an overcast day, you're not going to have any shadows, so you've got to really pay attention as to how you're going to pull things out. But this was a great moment in time, and it stands up. I mean, this could be in a publication if it was just post-processed a little better.
John, I did dehaze the hell out of this thing. It was that whole area there was just full of smoke.
Yeah, well, like I said, you can smell the smoke. It's great.
And I like the bag the lady is carrying with the English.
The dichotomy of having a Caucasian woman with everybody else Chinese in there, I thought that was pretty interesting because she kind of jumps out at you when you look at it for a minute.
Yeah.
Wonder what the bag said.
There's all sorts of interesting stuff over there.
That's great.
Yeah. And the next one is also from John Gill. Watch where you are going, George.
How many of us have seen dogs in cars? I thought this was a real cute shot. I was wondering what they're both looking at. Probably either the owner or the store that he went into, he or she. I also wondered when the person came out, if they had to, how do you get the dog to move off the seat? My dog would look at me and say, get in the back, you know. It's a good exposure. I thought it was interesting looking through the window like that. Neither one of them were wearing seatbelts, so I hope they weren't driving. But nothing like a good dog.
I wished I had a polarized filter with me that day.
Yeah, yeah. How would you have handled that, John? Without a filter?
I think he pulled it off. I think he got it. I was impressed that he got as much haze off that glass as he did, and the fact that those dogs are sitting as though they're people in there, they're aping the people. I really chuckled at this picture. It was nice.
And how many times have you looked in a window like that? It sounded seen a great shot, but right across the window is a reflection of power lines.
Yeah, right.
Or something. Yeah, the fact that that windshield is clean, I thought it was very well done. Did the dogs talk to you?
No, they just sat there and kept staring. That was over there in Fishtown. They were just,
Oh, yeah.
They're waiting for a kipper.
Something. Okay. Lastly, by Alicia Erickson, we have Winter Yak.
Now, when I saw this photo, I just was like, wow. I mean, here again, another exotic picture of something that we just don't see every day. But I was just questioning why the camera was held vertically versus horizontally, because the yak is more of a horizontal animal. I want to see the rest of that critter. But the eye contact is there. The whole thing is, it's very engaging if you can see the eyes, but you go, wow, there's no doubt that yak is looking right at you. But I just wanted to see all of that critter. It's just too bad that it got cut off. I like the selective focus, the shallow focus on it makes him pop out of the frame. It's a challenge to get a look like that on snow. Everything worked on it, but I want to see that whole animal. That was my only thought with that picture.
When I saw
There was
this,
a lot of other yak rears to the left.
Okay.
when I saw this, I thought this is a result of a cow that was caught in the pandemic.
This is right in Calcasta.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can go there and they will give you a tour and you can take pictures. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, neat.
John
Is it a
Robert.
yak
Where,
ram?
where is this, Alicia?
It's called a Yak or Two Ranch. It's off of 571 going towards Kalkaska.
Yeah, Barcelona Road. Yeah.
Yep.
Just a note,
Yeah, they're awesome people.
Wow.
They had a camel a few years ago. I was driving along 571, looked over, and there's this big camel standing there looking over the fence. I haven't seen him since.
just for your information, with Gill's Spear Winery used to be up north of Fishtown, Leland. They're raising yaks up there too.
I thought they were Scottish.
I don't know if they're Scottish or not. I didn't say whiskey.
Yeah. That's the Firestone farm up there.
Yeah, yeah. Why don't you let Andy go? Yeah.
You know, I disagree with John Robert Williams on this one. I like this crop. I like how it makes me want to see more. And it leaves something to the imagination. Whereas if you get the whole animal in there, there's nothing for you to guess. It's kind of like that car in Cuba that was cropped out a little bit that still gave that image, made that story. And I think this story is a little more powerful without seeing the whole animal in there. But then again, I kind of like doing that to some of my pictures too. So that comes down to taste and flavor of the image. And I think this is a very powerful shot the way it is. So that's the joy of photography. There's a bunch of different looks or different takes on what makes good art or a good image. And I really, this one caught me and I like that. And I can't believe I'm disagreeing with one of my idols.
No, I don't care. That's fine. It's just and it's different strokes for different folks, but it's just the where this is cropped. It's kind of like, oh boy, I just want to see a little bit more. I mean, if it was just the head and shoulders, then yeah, I get it. You can crop a lot of the body out, but here I'm just aching for a little bit more. So that's okay. I mean, yeah, it's all right. But the way that there's all this negative space on the right, and then the animal is not completed on the left is what compositionally is why I'm questioning it. That's all. But I mean, I love the exoticness of it. I've got to go find that place. That's amazing.
That if I was driving by and saw this particular animal looking at me with that snow on its face, I would have cropped right in on his nose and left everything else being that wild hair. Because it would have been a what the hell is that kind of photo.
Yeah.
So there's like Andy said, there's a variety of ways to capture this animal, and all of them would be wonderful probably. What if he smelled?
Isn't that part of the reason you take multiple pictures so you can choose?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. That is it, folks.
I have one quick comment if I could.
Sure.
Anybody who was involved in the Michigan Snowy Owl page on Facebook, they pulled that page because earlier this fall they posted and said people are getting a little carried away with their snowy owl pictures because they're getting up too close for them. They don't have long lenses and they're threatening the owl's existence, their health and their existence by being disruptive to the bird. And then some people started sending pictures in of people with their cell phones walking up to birds in the fields and stuff. And it was the final straw for those people, so they pulled it.
Good for them.
I started a conversation with the Antrim Photo Group saying, we need to express our concern about that because it is against federal law to harass raptors. Aside from that, it's against decency to harass any kind of a wild animal. So if you don't have the ability to get a long lens out, borrow one, buy one, or just enjoy the sight.
Build your
Let's not be
skills.
killing our perfect birds. I've seen a couple of them. I won't tell anybody. And that was the first thing they said is don't post where you photograph this bird. And if you do photograph it, do it with a long lens. Do it with a little taste and flavor. Be patient. And I want to pass that along to people because this is not a competition. This is showing everybody's vision.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this club. Everybody's got such great ideas and great vision. John and I have watched the growth there for years, and it's quite fascinating. So I wanted to say I appreciate that too, but I wanted to point that out. I have a lot of concern about that too. I put on my DNR hat and get out of the car and everybody runs, so.
John, I think most
Can I
of
make a closing comment? Just for you.
most of that concern about the owls was from down here in Muskegon. Because
Yes.
the owls are located at the wastewater treatment plant. And there's one road that goes across these two huge ponds, and the owls always gather on that road. Well, that attracts people from all over the place. I mean, they're driving up from Ohio and Chicago just to see these owls, And so earlier in the year, they said, okay, nobody posts where this is. They don't want anybody, just coming, driving that far just to see the owls. So it's probably a good thing.
Dale?
I've seen people harass the owls and it really ticks me off. I stopped two people just the other day from walking past me to go right up to this owl sitting on a pole. And they had cell phones, ridiculous.
I don't know of anybody in our group that's been violating this particular thing. I just wanted to bring it up because it's a concern, and I want to make sure everybody's aware of the fact that people are beginning to watch. I've got 3 or 4 of them out in our neighborhood already, or the same bird, I'm not sure. But I won't tell anybody where it is. I won't tell them I live in Kalkaska or Flint or anywhere else. And they're left alone, just like our bald eagles are.